Joining me now is Senator Gustavo Rivera. He is a New York State Senator from District 33, and he is pushing for single payer in the state of New York. So this is very interesting. A couple of new studies out that seem to help make his case. Senator Rivera, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Cenk.
All right, good to be with you. So you're the ranking member of the New York State Senate Health Committee, so you would know a thing or two about health. You fought for this since you have arrived in the New York Senate. So what are the new studies out that you think help make your case for single payer in New York?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that I am currently the ranking member in the Health Committee in the Senate. It is the expectation that based on the blue wave that hopefully is coming in November, based on all the work that we're going to do, that we're going to have a majority in the Senate in January, which means that I would be the chair of the Health Committee in the Senate. So that's the first thing I'll point out. But in particular, the study that you're referring to, the RAND Corporation, which nobody will identify as some left-wing, left-wing think tank anywhere, actually did a study which came out just about a month ago, in which they found, and I know this is shocking to some of your viewers, but single payer is actually the most fiscally conservative option for providing healthcare for New Yorkers. And ultimately what it said, and even while making some conservative assumptions about the system, and we can go into what those conservative assumptions were, but even with those conservative assumptions, it found that having a single payer system in the state of New York would provide better care for everyone. It would be accessible to everyone. It would be cheaper for over 95% of the people in New York State, and over time it would actually be less expensive. So again, not a shock to any of your listener or your viewers, but this was actually incredibly important to make the case, particularly to some of my Republican colleagues and other less left-leaning Democrats, that it is something that is fiscally necessary. And it is possible to do in the state of New York, and we need to do in the state of New York.
So this is the second study in a row that shows that it saves money. Now, obviously, the first one was on a national level. It was the Koch brothers founded Mercatus group that looked at Medicare for all across the country and accidentally realized that it would save a significant amount of money.
Oops.
That's exactly right. Now, this RAND Corporation RAND study is more of a right-wing think tank, and they also find out that it saves money. I think it's time that we start asking Republicans and by the way, other Democrats who oppose it, is it realistic and practical to keep a system that is so damn expensive?
No, it isn't. I mean, the first thing, and this is something that I start with my Republican colleagues, and I have some of them that have been on the fence about this for a bit. So hopefully when I'm in the majority next year, I can bring a few of them over in a vote for the committee and on the floor. But in any event, I always start with the moral case. And it is a very basic question. I ask my Republican colleagues, and I would ask anyone, if there's a child who has cancer and their parents cannot afford healthcare that would provide them the care that they need to survive their cancer, do you believe that child should die? And if you do, then we have nothing to talk about. But if you believe that there is a basic responsibility that we have to each other, seeing as we are all humans, so we will all get sick regardless of our age, gender, color of our skin, income, or what have you, you need to establish a system that would actually provide the most equitable care. And I should mention, by the way, that the RAND study that we're talking about was specifically about just the state of New York. Obviously, the Mercatus one that you're referring to was something that was around the nation. But in either case, your point is an important one. The current system benefits health insurance companies, and certainly if you're wealthy, you have access to the best healthcare system in the world. But if you are not wealthy, then you have to just pray and hope that you get a job that has good enough coverage, or that your insurance company chooses to pay for what it is that you need to get better.
So Senator Rivera, I actually have never heard it that way, and that's actually a terrific point. I mean, it really is, it's amazing that in this country, if you don't have insurance, or now with the fake insurance that's coming out under Trump, where you'll be denied if you have pre-existing condition, or you'll run into a yearly limit and all those other issues, and your kid has cancer, you're gonna die. That's not an emergency room situation. They will die from cancer. We're gonna let the kids die because we live in this brutal, deeply immoral system. So I think that's a stunning point about that. Now, when it comes to the fiscal issue, so why does this save money? This study says that by 2031, it would save $15 billion just in the state of New York, which is an amazing number. So why? Why does it save money?
Well, first of all, you have to consider that the way that any insurance works, right, is you pool risk, right? So you make sure that if there's 10 people or if there's 100 people, and all of them put a bit of money into the pot, and we only have to spend money on 5 of them, then the rest of those 95 are going to cover those 5. This is when we talk about, for example, the young invincibles, right? The whole conversation that we had during the Obamacare debate, saying that we need these young invincibles, we need these young people who are less likely to use health insurance to buy into the system so that it can actually maintain it for those that are more in need of it. So that's number one, that you spread out the risk in the case of the New York Health Act in 20 million people in the state of New York. That's number one. Number two, you actually have added negotiating power as a state of New York. If you're negotiating with insurance companies, with drug companies, you are not negotiating on behalf of just a group of people, let's say, 1 million or 2 million people that you insure. You're instead negotiating for the entire state of New York. Furthermore, when you're talking about providing care for everyone, having primary care, there's many people, particularly if we're talking about undocumented people and other uninsured people, they still get sick. And what do they use for their primary care? The emergency room, the most expensive care. So if you provide primary care across the board, then you will have a lot of people who cost the system a lot of money right now, who will instead be able to control their diseases over a longer period of time. And lastly, since we're actually talking, if we talk about morbidity and mortality, so we're talking about making sure that more people are healthier and will stay healthier for longer. All of that costs a system less. So for all of these reasons, this thing, providing care to everybody, makes sense. And again, this right-wing think tank told us very clearly it would actually cost us less money overall and be more equally distributed as far as how it is funded.
Senator Rivera, as you were talking, I saw the future. And the future involves us winning on all these issues. So there's a wave coming. New York Senate is barely split. There's an excellent chance.
We could have a conversation about that, can't we?
Yeah, I know. That's a whole nother conversation. But there's an excellent chance Democrats are going to take it over after the next elections. And look, we started ending the war on drugs on a state-by-state basis. We won on gay civil rights, and we're going to win on this too. It's just a matter of time because we're right. We're right on the money. We're right on the morality. So I'm going to ask one last real quick question here. It also says this system would increase employment. Why?
Oh, it would increase employment because less people, what we're doing right now, what we do if the system is put into place, is that we would be replacing premiums and out-of-pocket costs. So that money that would usually not be in someone's pocket would be in someone's pocket, and then they would spend it. It's in the same way that when you raise the minimum wage, you actually have an impact on the economy because you put more money in the pockets of people who are going to spend it. So, and by the way, this is not me, some crazy liberal lefty from New York saying it. This is the Rand study that anybody can read, and you can go, and they go into all sorts of economic models that make me a little bit confused when I look at all the numbers. But the bottom line is clear. They found that by 2022, and again, even with their conservative assumptions, by 2022 there will be 220,000 new jobs that would be created. So this is about more spending power because more normal individuals have more power, have more money in their pockets because they're not spending it on out-of-pocket costs and premiums. So ultimately, again, this is the most fiscally responsible system that we can come up with. And I'm hoping that next year, when we are in the majority, and we will be in the majority in the state Senate, I will do everything in my power to make sure that we can move it. One last thing I'll say is that when you see, I want you to look at this face right now, because when you see this face in a grainy picture, black and white, looking even fatter than I am, with a slow, a slow close-up in an ad by the insurance companies, you will know that we are winning.
They will come for you. But
and I can't wait.
But you'll have a lot of us behind you. Senator Gustavo Rivera, thank you for joining us, and thank you for fighting for things that's actually going to make a difference in people's lives.
It's a pleasure to be here, Cenk.